it is time for a Sunday sum up, and I'm really excited because school's over. School is over. Yesterday, before the Shadow of Night discussion, I actually turned in my last assignment, and I was thrilled. And I'm gonna share a little clip of what I was doing for my last assignment because I was having a lot of fun with it. Basically, this is for like my arts class, and it's a music focus, but we learned about all the different types of arts that you would need for education and stuff like that. So I have to create a video game project, and I'm not gonna actually create the video game, but I'm supposed to create basically everything for the video game, including the music that would go for it. And so I'm really having fun putting together my idea. And so my game is called Lizzie the Lit Lizard because it's all a game about literacy. And so I've been working on it, and it's going to be kind of like a choose your own adventure game where this is Lizzie my little lizard, and the kids would get to this point, and this would actually make noise at them and say, decode the word stop. And then they would actually say into the microphone like, stop. And if they got it correctly, they'd go one direction, and it would then adjust to their level of phonemic awareness, basically how well they're pronouncing and decoding words. If they didn't get it correctly or they didn't know how to decode the word, they would go the other direction. It doesn't mean they did badly or did poorly. It just means that it would adjust to be more in their own personal zone of proximal development, meaning where they are when it comes to literacy learning. So yeah, I'm starting to have a lot of fun doing that. That's my last final project. And once I get my music made for it, for Lizzie the Lit Lizard, I will play it for you so you can hear. Because I have to make music that would be like on loop in the background, and then I have to make a few sounds. Well, for me, it's going to be if she goes left, it's this sound. If she goes right, it's this sound. And then once she gets to the fly rocks, where her ultimate goal is, then it'll make another sound. So I have to like make the music that would be playing the whole time, but then I also have to make game sounds, movement sounds. After that, I have to write all the rules and everything like that, any kind of story that's necessary for this game. And then I put it all in a PowerPoint presentation. And I need to draw a thing that talks about Lizzie as well and have her little character standing there and talk about her character. And that's pretty much it. That's what I do for my project. Put it on a PowerPoint presentation, turn it in. I don't even have to present it. Just turn it in. And that's my final project. And so it's kind of a fun one to end out the year with. Okay, I finished my song. Does it sound adventurous? It's gonna play on loop for my video game. It's a little short, but it's just a final project. And there's Lizzie, my little lit lizard. And I know that's kind of silly to share, but I just thought it was fun. So that's where I'm at with school. I am done, and I'm so excited for the summer. As you saw, it has been pretty rainy this week, but today it's not a beautiful sunny day, but at least there is sunshine. Summer's just taking its sweet time. But I don't care because I'm out of school, and I'm doing a 48-hour readathon this weekend for Whatever You Want-a-thon. So it doesn't matter because I'm not planning on going too many places anyways. We are going to see a concert today. My cousin plays in a 90s rock cover band, and so we're gonna go see him play, which has been a while since we were able to do that, so I'm excited about that. So I've got 3 book reviews, and then I'm gonna tell you about what books I'm currently reading, and let's just go start those book reviews. Hello, I've got good news. I have finished my final exit review for my science education course, which was the second thing that I needed to get done, and it went really well. I think it went really well. I just got to chat with my teacher. We either could write a paper or make an outline and talk with the teacher about questions she was asking us. And I made an outline, and it was a great conversation. It was just so nice to get a chance to talk to her about the whole term, all the things that we learned, that we could have done better, that we are working on as future teachers. And she's awesome. I really like her. I hope to continue to stay in contact with her because I really like her as a person, and I felt like she was very inspiring as a teacher. But yesterday, on the 7th, I finally finished my first book of the month, which was Illuminae, which is by Amie, Kaufmann, and Kristoff. And this is a YA sci-fi sci-fi science fairies. It was a YA sci-fi mixed media book. So this was one of my first genuine that was a mosquito. Jerk. I don't think he got me. This was my very first genuine. That was a big mosquito. Usually we get little mosquitoes. That one was like this big. Great. Okay. That was my first real full mixed media book, I think. I can't be sure. But it was really very fun, very interesting, very, very creative. I'm going to give it 4 stars because I really enjoyed it overall. There were some things that, of course, didn't work for me quite as well as they might have worked for other people. I'll talk about that a little bit in a bit. But what I did enjoy was the emotion that was conveyed. There were definitely moments that I got a bit choked up. I wasn't expecting it, but there were so many devastating things happening in this book. There were twists that I wasn't expecting, things that happened that I was like, oh, well, that, I guess I could have guessed that, but I didn't guess it. Cece's trying to sneak over to the neighbors. I got my eye on her. So I'll talk to you. I'm also watching her. Okay, so what is the story about? It's about this planet, this small planet where Cece! She's still... Okay. Where they're doing this illegal mining. There's this company that has set up shop on this planet, and they're illegally mining something that I don't know what it is. I can't remember words at the moment. You're not sneaky, little miss. Okay, so... And there's families that are living on this planet. They've been living on this planet. They've been working these mines for a long time, 15 plus years. It surrounds these 2 teenage students, these high school students. They're having a normal day in class, and the planet starts getting attacked by another corporation, this corporation called Baytech Industries or Baytech Corporation or something. And they're a rival company. And everybody starts trying to get off the planet. They end up on 3 ships. A lot of people die, of course, in the process, but they end up ultimately on 3 ships. They end up on the Alexander, the Hypatia, and the Copernicus. And all the people that are able to escape from the planet from these Baytech invaders are on these 3 ships. And then kind of what happens from there. And I don't want to give you more than that because there's a lot of things that happen and there's a lot of things I don't want to give away. But these 2 teenagers actually were dating. They broke up that same day because of... they couldn't make the future work for them. They end up on different ships and they're trying to figure out how to deal with the issue of their relationship coming to an end while also trying to figure out what's going on with the invasion that happened to their planet, what's going on the ships, are there secrets being kept, yada, yada, yada. It was fascinating. And the way that it was laid out with the mixed media was really interesting and really added to the experience. I would say that the audiobook is really cool, and the audiobook is neat because it has different character actors. The accents are pretty cheesy. They're not great. But all the different music and all the different things that happen in the audiobooks is really cool. But you do miss a little bit, or a lot, from having the experience of going through this book like it's a case file. Almost like somebody handed you a folder with a whole bunch of documents in it and their own notes on the documents, and you're reading through it like you're reading through a briefing or something like that. And you really need to read all the little bits, like the little paper clip or the post-it notes that have to do with what the Illuminae group, the group that's creating this dossier, what they're saying, because for one, it's interesting and there's a lot of humor and stuff in this, but 2, it adds a lot to your understanding of the story. Okay, so I'm basically following Cece around because she cannot be trusted. Some of the things that didn't quite work as well for me were the dialogue, to be honest. It was realistic in the sense that it was written probably the way that teenagers would write, but it was just irritating to me. Because like, even as a teenager myself, I was one of those annoying, like, full sentences, punctuation. It's not like I can't read that, can't understand it, can't appreciate it. But with this particular story, considering how much suspense was happening the whole time and how you're like at the edge of your seat and things are happening that are making you sick to your stomach, making the characters extremely upset, those moments where the dialogue was really immature and juvenile and the topics that were covered with the dialogue really pulled me out of those suspenseful moments. So moments where I was like heart pounding, da 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 da, and then they would say something and I'm like, ugh. I don't know. Like, for some reason that took me out of the moment a lot. And so I felt like where this book was building up so much suspense, the actual dialogue that was used, the things that these characters would say, maybe as realistic as they might have been for teenagers, it still took me out of those moments and decreased my level of suspense. So that was kind of where I couldn't give this a higher rating, because I had a hard time with those moments. And I know that's a me problem. But it did decrease my enjoyment of the book a bit. Furthermore, there were a lot of long diatribes by a specific character that I will not mention. I was not as crazy about those diatribes. I just kind of felt like I would rather hear a little bit less from them. And I know that that was the intention, and I know that it adds so much to it, and that was where a lot of the philosophical thinking and the conversation around what humanity is and stuff like that came from. But it felt so cheesy at times. There were times that it felt almost too cheesy, almost like too obvious. And maybe that's because it is written as a YA novel. Like if it was written as an adult novel, those philosophical conversations, those diatribes wouldn't feel as cheesy probably, because they'd be written for an older audience. And maybe this is a good way for a YA audience to be able to understand and think about these kind of thoughts. But there were moments when it just felt a little drawn out and a little cheesy. And so that's probably why I'm giving it a 4 stars. And yet, it was so good. It was so interesting. It was so much fun. And if you like mixed media, or you want to get into mixed media, this is a great book to start your journey in mixed media. And if you like sci-fi, it's so cool. It's so fun. There were so many elements to this that were fantastic. So yeah, Illuminae, 4 stars. Really enjoyed it. Glad I finally finished it. Okay, so now that I have finished Illuminae, I am going to check off the prompts that I have for Whateverathon. So here's my little thing, and you'll see I've got cozy reading time marked off and my free space marked off. So based off my notes, this book works for 1-word title, so I can put a little star there. Oh, no, those are hearts. Put a little heart there. It's a different format because it's multimedia, so I'm counting it for that one. Finally, this one has been on many, many TBRs, so I'm counting it for on a previous TBR. That's the one I decided to go for with this particular book. So there's that one. And yeah, I know, I guess I could have done that way and got adventure or quest, but I don't have a lot of books on my current TBR that are on previous TBRs. So I wanted to make sure I was able to cross off that particular one. So that's where I'm currently standing with TBR Travelers. I'm close to a bingo. As far as Camp Seasonathon, this really doesn't count for anything for that, but it does count as leaky tits for Not Safe for Workathon. So now it's time to pick the next book for Not Safe for Workathon. I've got my trusty little container. And I'm excited. I'm excited to be on my second book for my readathons. I'm nervous, but I'm nervous. Okay. Let's go with this one. Morning Sickness. Oh, this one doesn't have a book. Read something in the morning. Okay, I can do that. So with my next book, I'll make sure that I read part of it in the morning, and that'll count for this one. So I gotta pick another one. Okay, here we go. Not looking. Mixing things around. Let's go with this one, and hopefully it's a book one. It is... Oh! This is also not a book one. Prepping the Nursery, Build on Your Collection, Treat Your Shelf. And so this is actually just buying myself a new book, which I'm excited about that one because there's this beautiful copy of Dracula at Barnes & Noble's that I really, really like and really want. And I think that's going to be what I'm going to get. I'm not actually going to read that book. This is just prepping my nursery, getting a book that I really want for my house. Okay, now let's see if we actually get a book this time. We're just going to do all of the non-bookish prompts now. Okay, let's see. Let's go with... I'm trying not to look, but try to see what I'm doing. This one. What is that? Stretch marks. Read a book with a beautiful cover. Aha! Okay, so I'm really excited about being able to read The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin because this actually fulfills a lot of things. It is on my TBR game because this girl has a whole bunch of flowers on her dress, and that was one of the prompts that I got for my TBR game. And it works for all 3 readathons. So it works for Camp Seasonathon because this is the group book. It works for Not Safe for Workathon, obviously, because it's the stretch marks prompt. Read a book with a beautiful cover. And that is definitely one of the reasons this book has captured my attention and made me interested in it, because I think that this cover is stunning. Absolutely gorgeous. And then, of course, it also works for Whatever You Want-a-thon. So I haven't figured out what prompts this will work for. But I'm excited about it. And this is a YA fantasy novel about a teen who is an Everwitch and can control all the seasons. I have heard really, really good things about it. And yeah, I'm just excited. So I'll just make sure that I read part of this during the morning, and I'll take a little bit of footage of that. And I'm actually really excited that this came up so soon, because this being the group book for Camp Seasonathon, they're actually doing their conversation with the author on the 18th of the month. And so I wanted to make sure I finished this before their group discussion so that I could watch that and see what the author has to say and not have to worry about spoilers. Okay, so it seems to be a thing that I come out to the woods, review my books while I'm taking Cece out. This is my new review spot, apparently, because I'm always like, oh, let me set the book aside that I just finished so I can show it to you guys in the house when I review the book. But then I come out here to walk Cece. I'm like, oh, let me review the book for the book review. Shadow of Night by Deborah Harkness. This is the second book in the All Souls series, and it's the book for my Bookstar read-alongs group. We have our live discussion today, so it's a good thing I finished it in time. It was 577 pages. Oh, my neighbor's starting to do some kind of loud something. Okay, so I went further away, and of course now it sounds like he stopped. But as far as Shadow of the Night goes, I don't know how to talk about this book without giving any kind of spoilers, because this whole book's premise revolves around what happens in the first book. So what I'm going to say here is I'm going to talk about it a little bit. I'm not going to give spoilers for this book, but this whole section will be somewhat spoilery for the first book. So if you don't want to know anything that happens in the first book or how it ends out in the first book, skip ahead. Don't listen to me, because I don't want you to be spoiled, and I can't talk about this book at all without somewhat spoiling elements of the first book. Okay, if you're still here, then you're okay with a little bit of spoilers. So the way this book starts is that Matthew and Diana have time walked to 1591 because they're trying to find a certain manuscript that we learn about in the first book. Also, Diana needs to learn how to control her magic. So that's the whole premise of this second book. And it's incredible because we learn so much history about 1591, and basically they're living their lives in this time period for at least 7 months that you're like, it's a different world, it's a different time, and it was fascinating. And I thought that Deborah Harkness did such an amazing job pulling in those historical elements, historical characters. There were a lot of really famous historical characters, and just little bits, little tidbits that you can tell Deborah Harkness knows her stuff about history and has used a lot of different references to be able to make her characters up. And then just the way she was able to depict 1591 was incredible. I just was so impressed because nothing about it ever felt cartoonish. It is interesting because you have all these really big historical figures, and they play a very big role in the relationship with Diana and Matthew, and yet that also doesn't feel cartoonish. It feels very realistic. So the way that Harkness was able to create this setting and all these characters to work really well together, and yet represent a period of time that we, aside from actual, what we've read in books and stuff like that, we can't actually visualize this time period well without some kind of reference. It's not something that we can say, oh yeah, I remember what it was like in 1591. I thought that was so brilliant and so clever, and that was one of the things that really impressed me about this book a lot, aside from everything that happens. I mean, this book is full, it's chock full of amazing things, amazing twists to the story, amazing directions, amazing characters. It took me a little while to get into it, and that's probably why I would give it a 4.75. Honestly, the second half is 5 stars. The first half, as much as I loved all the history and everything, it took me a while to really get into the flow of things. Not even the first half, probably the first third took me a little while to get into the flow of everything, because
I wasn't as crazy about the characters we were meeting. I just was frustrated with them. And I was frustrated with Matthew because of the characters we were meeting. And I understand why Harkness did that, and it makes sense later on, but in the beginning, I was frustrated with it. And it did kind of slow my pace and the flow of the reading. It did end up changing, and ultimately, I loved the characters. I loved the direction it went. And you find and you meet new characters in this book that you love just as much as you love the characters in the first book. So if you enjoy fantasy that's more historically grounded, and you don't mind a book that's longer, but it's because it's full of details and it really sets a scene well, then I would totally recommend this series. Absolutely recommend this series. It is incredible, and I think you'll enjoy it. I'm excited about Book of Life. That's going to be coming up in 2 months, and I'm like, yes, 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 yes. I cannot wait to see where this is going to go.
So now that I've finished Shadow of Night by Deborah Harkness, I hadn't initially planned on this being on Camp Seasonathon, but I messaged Melanie and I asked her, say we do more books than the 10 that are on the list, can we add those? And so she said yes, because of course you want to make sure you keep getting points for your team. So this is going to work for top priority. This is a series that's a top priority for me for the year. So that will work for that prompt. So I will count that for Camp Seasonathon. For Whatever You Want-a-thon, it counts for continuous series. All right there. And then let me get another heart. I've got Adventure or Quest. Counts for that, which that's perfect because that means that I just need to do a guilt-free activity at some point. Maybe today? I don't know. Well, I did sleep in today and I didn't set an alarm. Is that a guilt-free activity? I slept until like 9:30. So is that a guilt-free activity? Okay, so I was thinking about it and I was talking to Mom about it, and I think I am gonna count guilt-free activity because I did 2 things really. Last night I went to trivia, which I do every Thursday, but when I go to trivia, I don't worry about schoolwork. Like, I'm basically done for the night. I'm not, most of the times I think about what could I still be getting done, but whenever I go to trivia, I'm like, I don't have anything I have to worry about at the moment. I just go and have a good time, have a few beers, hang out with my friends, we do trivia. So that's fantastic, and that is a guilt-free activity. And then I also think I'm gonna count sleeping in this morning, because whenever I don't set my alarm, I'm basically saying, I don't care what I have to do tomorrow morning. I'm gonna sleep in because I know that I need the sleep. So that counts. And so I'll put a little heart here. That gives me my very first full bingo for Whateverathon. Woohoo! So I did it. I have made my first bingo with 2 books. Just 2 books. Pretty good. I am gonna try and go for a blackout. One of the things I was struggling with was host fave, because I don't have any of the host faves on my TBR. And most of them are pretty big books, because a lot of them are like high fantasy and things like that. But Gav has Heartstopper on his list of faves. And so I have put that request in with my library. Of course, I'm like 23 out of like, I think they have 14 books available for book 1. So I'm like, number 23, and I'm hoping that it'll go quickly because there's so many books. I know that I could get an ebook probably, but I also just don't really like reading graphic novels as ebooks. So I'm gonna wait for that, and I'm hoping that it'll be able to come in before the end of the month and that I can read Heartstopper. And then finally, because Shadow of Night was part of the poll we originally used to plan the next reads for this year for Bookstart read-alongs, you know, the poll decided on the Mortal Instruments series and the All Souls trilogy series. So that works for poll in my opinion, because we used a poll to pick these books. So I'm gonna count that as poll. So I finished the Tea Dragon Festival by Kay O'Neill, and this is a wonderful, wonderful graphic novel series that is sort of like for all ages, that is about these tea dragons. Well, it's about tea dragons and the people around them, the people who take care of them. And tea dragons are these cute little adorable, they're not pets. In fact, in this book they call them pests, but they're these dragons that grow different types of teas. In this particular book, you've got more of the mountain teas. So you've got marshmallow and you've got fennel and you've got these different little tea dragons, and they're just so cute. And they're so ridiculous, but they're totally full of themselves, and they basically just need to be taken care of by the people in this village. So what was interesting about this particular book, I don't want to say it was a continuation of the first book, because it was almost like a prequel in some ways to the first book in the series. 2 of the characters in this book, Haskiel and Eric, are the tea shop owners that we meet in the very first book. And this is more about Eric's family, Eric's home village, and them going back. And then we've got this dragon named Readathon. I don't know how to pronounce his name properly, but that's Readathon. And then we've got Rin. And when we first come into this, Rin is learning how to cook, but they are also like a gatherer for the village. They gather stuff. And then they find this dragon, and it kind of goes along the story about what happens with this dragon. We also see Heskiel and Eric come into the picture, and we learn more about their experience being in this little village. So it's adorable, it's sweet. Sometimes I feel like this series, these books are not the most cohesive, but I don't know if that matters so much. I feel like these have the perfect cottagecore vibes, and so if you're looking for a vibe, a feeling, these are perfect books for that, you know, just very heartwarming, uplifting. The artwork is gorgeous, as you can see. It's stunning artwork, and it's just sweet. It's very, very sweet. As far as my rating goes, I'd probably give this one 4 stars. I gave the first one 4.25 stars. I think I just liked the story just a teeny bit more. I think what it is that this one has a little less of the actual T-Dragons storyline in this. We get T-Dragons, of course, but the first one focused a little more on the T-Dragons than this one did. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I don't know. I kind of liked the tie-ins a little bit more, but I did love this dragon. So, you know, it was great. This was really, really good. And I have not given too many graphic novels really high ratings. So for me, 4 stars is fantastic for a graphic novel. So I'm still trying to find my sweet spot when it comes to graphic novels. There have been some that I've liked more than others. This series in particular is fantastic. And I can see absolutely loving this series because of the vibe it gives you. It's a very happy, wholesome feeling. And what I really enjoy about this is all the diversity representation in this. There's LGBTQ rep when it comes to sexuality and gender. And then there's also representation in this particular book for a deaf person and sign language. I just appreciate how well it's incorporated into the story. It doesn't really feel gratuitous or anything like that. It feels like it's just really well melded into these characters. I absolutely recommend it if you're looking for something sweet, fun, wholesome, and charming, and a quick read. A quick read that's perfect for readathons. Just will give you beautiful summer vibes. This gave me great summer vibes, which is more than I can say my actual state is doing right now. As far as the books that I'm currently reading for the 48-hour readathon and for the month, I'm still working on my Not Safe for Workathon book that I chose, as you saw, The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. I'm currently on page 208, so I'm quite a bit of ways through, and this one will read so quickly. I will get this one done very soon, hopefully today, because I've got more reading to do for my 48-hour readathon today. So I'm hoping to get this one done today, and then I can pick another Not Safe for Workathon book and continue on. And then my secondary book, I have picked up Fruits Basket Volume 4 by Natsuki Takaya. And so this one works for Whatever You Want-a-thon. I think this also works for Magical Aurelium. So for Magical Aurelium, this is actually going to work for animal studies because this is a quick read. So that's one that I will finally get done for that. And, you know, I'm just taking my time getting through my studies for to become a necromancer. I have all the time in the world. So when you're dealing with life and death, you know, what is time? Really? What is time? So that's pretty much all that's gone on this week for me. There's probably more, but maybe I'll include some of the other stuff in the 48-hour readathon. So check that out when it comes out. Hopefully that vlog will come out this next week. You know, my editing has not been going so well. I'm still editing the Mad Ship discussion, but it will be done and it will be posted before we do our Ship of Destiny discussion next weekend. So it has to get done soon. Let me know in the comment section down below, what was the best book that you read this week? And also let me know, how many bingos have you got for Whatever You Want-a-thon so far? How are you doing? And hopefully you're on TBR Travelers and you're making all the points for us. But if not, you know, still let me know, because, you know, little friendly competition never hurt. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you can see what happens next week in my adventure of the 3 really busy, really big readathons that I'm currently working through. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later. Bye.